Welcome to the 4 Habits podcast, where we help you build relationships that thrive at home, at work, and in life. We're Dr. Andrea and John Taylor Cummings, and every week we bring you actionable insights to create meaningful connections and lasting success. So let's dive in.
So today we're talking about the all-important topic of happily even after. How do you rebuild trust after betrayal and the trauma that brings to a relationship? And with us in the studio today, we're delighted to have Mr. J all the way from New York. Welcome, Mr. J.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate your time and this platform, both of you, John and Andrea. So I am Mr. J. I am from the cold and expensive state of New York, but love it here. I'm actually more in upstate New York, so it's more of a rural area, and it's a wonderful place to live. So thank you again for having me on. I appreciate it.
Great. Wonderful to have you. And as our audience knows, we need to give you your proper introduction. So, John, why not take us through the bio? Then we'll kick off.
For sure. Okay, here we go. So Mr. J is a betrayal trauma practitioner and intrapersonal, I'll put my teeth back in, intrapersonal, I can't say that, intrapersonal relationship coach who helps individuals and couples find healing after the shattering experience of broken trust. A proud veteran, an adoptive parent, and former special education teacher, with over 15 years in the classroom, Mr. J brings a wealth of lived and professional experience into his work. His approach blends empathy, education, and spiritual insight to guide clients through one of the most painful relational journeys you can have, which is moving from betrayal to breakthrough. As the author of 2 books, From Tears to Transformation, which is a healing journal, and the children's book, I Am Loved Right Where I Am, Mr. J helps people reclaim their identity, rebuild their self-worth, and reconnect with those they love, starting with themselves. His motto, we're all beautifully broken, but even broken crayons can create masterpieces.
Beautiful.
Mr. J, I mean, you help people navigate this aftermath of betrayal, trauma, the trauma that really, I mean, there's proper trauma we're talking about here. What led you to do this very deeply personal and relational work?
Yeah, so very quickly, I'm just going to say, I had a very good relationship with my father. And unfortunately, he passed away with COVID. But it was very sudden. When I mean sudden, I mean, I was actually talking with him on the phone one day, and we're laughing and telling jokes and having a great conversation. And literally 4 days later, we were lowering his body into the ground.
No.
My body could not deal with the overwhelming impact, the profound impact that had. And I woke up a few days later in the middle of the night with my very first panic attack. Now, I've heard of panic attacks before. I've worked with people that have panic attacks before, but as you know, there's no substitute for experience. Having a panic attack is much different from, in theory, talking about one. But anyways, I woke up, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I smelled smoke. Now, I have young kids. So I'm waking up and I smell smoke, and I'm going all around my house trying to find the origin of this smoke. And I'm looking, in my living room and in my kitchen and in my basement and upstairs. And, we live in a relatively large house. I could not find the origin of this smoke. I'm opening up my house door thinking maybe my neighbors are having a campfire or something. There was no fire, no smoke at all. So I eventually went back to bed. But the second my head hit the pillow, I was I went back to when I was 6 years old, and I was standing right next to my mother as I was hearing her screams because our house burned down in a fire.
Wow.
And she was looking at the house. We returned after being home when the house was, we pulled into the driveway and there was just a chimney. That's it. And I heard my mother scream when I was 6. And so what my father's death did was bring back a lot of that childhood trauma that was never healed. And so while I was doing the journey to research where was this trauma and how did it come, one thing led to another. And next thing you know, I'm in a community of betrayal trauma. And I met the founder and CEO of an organization who works with couples that dealing with betrayal. I wound up working under her. She wound up certifying me as a betrayal trauma practitioner. And it's funny because, and this is where my life is now. And now 98.9% of my clients are either people or couples working through, navigating the journey through broken trust. And it's just interesting how, your life is on one path, or you're going on one path, and life's like, no, I think I want you on this path. Like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just, follow. But it's a fascinating field because it's really a niche within a niche.
Yeah, indeed.
And that's the niche we want to dive in today is to the betrayal trauma niche. But just before we do that, just to understand the bigger picture, is betrayal trauma very different or to other types of trauma? Clearly, the stimulus will be very different, but the way that people respond to it, is that quite some differences in there, or what's particular?
Great question. And I'm going to give you off the top of my head just 3 reasons why betrayal trauma is different from non-betrayal trauma. Okay. Number 1, the personalization of it all. So right now, if you lose a parent, that could be traumatic. That's very traumatic. But unless you do away with your parents, you don't personalize it. You don't say it was my fault. The minute we discover numbers under our mattress, or, our spouse was meeting their boss at Starbucks, or, whatever, for coffee or what have you, immediately we look inward. What was I lacking? What was wrong with me? Yeah. So that's number 1. We personalize it. Number 2 is it's a secret society. If you have a family member pass away or a loved one pass away, you post it on social media, you get letters, you get sympathy, you have your neighbors bringing you macaroni and cheese, you have people coming to the services and giving you hugs. You don't find the person you loved and trusted the most breaking trust with you, and you going on social media saying, "Woohoo! I just discovered my spouse is cheating on me." It's a very secret society, which adds to the loneliness in the healing journey
and the shame. Yeah.
And the last reason why, again, I'll just give you 3. Why betrayal trauma is different from non-betrayal trauma is because trauma in general affects the here and now and the future. So, for example, the year after my father passed, I got school pictures, my kids' school pictures, and I opened up my school pictures. I said, "Oh my God, my father's going to love thee." And then it hit me. He's not around anymore. So that's going to affect the current and the future. He's not going to be around for Christmases anymore and Thanksgivings and things like that. Betrayal trauma is the only trauma that affects the present, the future, but also the past. Because you can't drive down certain streets anymore like you used to. You can't go to restaurants anymore like you used to. You can't look at those pictures of Disney like you used to and think, "Oh, what a wonderful time we had." Because now you're always questioning, wait a minute, when he said or when she said I have a business meeting, I got to step out for a minute. Were they really hooking up with someone or talking to someone? So betrayal trauma is the only trauma that affects the past, present,
takes you
and
back
future.
there. Yeah.
Wow, powerful already. So so many questions. I want to know how people come to you, who comes to you, what starts it. Maybe that's the way to get going. When does this even surface, and who comes to you for help?
So sadly and unfortunately, it's the person who was devastated who usually comes to me. Not necessarily the person who set off the bomb in the relationship. And for many reasons. Now, let me be very clear. I will never, ever make any excuses, rationalizations, or justifications for people that cheat. But I do know that they are wounded. So I'm not going to put them in the doghouse. I'm not going to say they're, cheaters and dogs and filthy, disgusting vermin, like a lot of people want me to. I don't like their decisions. I think they made extremely poor choices. But nobody happy, healthy, and healed steps out of a marriage and betrays their spouse. Number 1. Number 2, I always say affairs and infidelity and cheating starts in childhood. Really? And I make that distinction for a couple of reasons. Number 1, I want both couples to know there was pre-existing wounds that were brought in the relationship before you even met this person. And number 2, I also want to make it very abundantly clear that the person who, let's just say, stayed faithful, has no responsibility in their spouse's decisions. So that when I'm working with a couple or I'm working with a person to find their why did you do what you did? They have to start with me and they have to end with I. So it has to be me, myself, and I. And it has to be before you even met the person you're with. So I don't want to hear he or she didn't give me sex, and he and she didn't give me validation, and he and she. Those are all marital issues that absolutely need to be addressed. But the marital issues are completely separate from the betrayal issues. We have to keep them separate.
Yeah, that's powerful right there. So the one who's been devastated by finding out, the one who has been betrayed is typically the client that would come to you. And how do you unpack things with them and take them on a journey? Who, do they come to you wanting to save the relationship? Is that why they're coming to you versus a divorce lawyer, for example?
So I'm going to say about 95% of my couples or people come to me because they want to stay. They want to stay. And I'm going to tell you something else, which we can go on if we have more time afterwards. There's a couple people that have come to me together who said, Mr. J, we have experienced an infidelity, a betrayal. We've talked a lot. We are now very amicable, very civil, and we're coming to you to help us work out what's the best way to go our separate ways, to get a divorce, to end our marriage with our kids, being not traumatized. And 8 months later or 12 months later, I'm getting pictures from Hawaii saying, we renewed our wedding vows. Thank you.
Oh, amazing.
So, even though I have a good majority of people and couples come to me that want to work on it, there's also those people, listen, and I understand that because betrayal hijacks your mind. I'm going to tell you something very quickly, if you don't mind, and please tell me, okay, stop.
No,
I need to come up for air. I want you to imagine, okay? I want you to imagine there's a bridge about a mile above land, mile above the earth. And that bridge is about a mile long. It's very narrow. It's very thin, okay? Under that bridge are active volcanoes, earthquakes, and fire. I'm talking very thick fire. And you are on that bridge. You are on that bridge, and you're at the beginning of the bridge, and you're holding the two things that mean the most to you. It could be your two kids. It could be your mother. It could be your dog. Whatever you're holding in your hand, you got to get to the other side of that bridge to keep yourself safety and whatever you prize the most in life, your parents, your kids, your animals, whatever. And you have to walk across that bridge. Now, under the bridge is so burning hot that the soles of your sneakers are melting. That's how hot that bridge is, okay? And you got to get to the other side of that bridge. Now, sometimes the smoke that's coming up from the earth is so thick it's burning your eyes, and you close your eyes. So the only way to get to the other side of this bridge for safety is to put your hand on the shoulder of the person in front of you that's going to guide you to safety. And that person in front of you is the person you love and trust the most in life. You actually love and trust them sometimes more than you love and trust yourself. And you got your two most prized possessions in your hands, and they're relying on you. It's your two kids, your two young kids, your animals, your elderly mother who's looking to you to keep them safe. So you got your hand in front of you, and the person you love and trust the most is leading you across that bridge. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the bridge collapses. And you're falling. Now you're holding your babies, you're holding your mama, you're holding your dogs, and the bridge is falling, and you see the eye of the volcano, and you're falling into it, and you're looking around trying to grab onto something, and you fear. Those little kids are looking in your eyes. They're deathly afraid, and you can't grab onto anything at all. And then you look up to the bridge, and you see the person you loved and trusted the most. They're holding a hammer. They're the ones that made the bridge collapse. Now your brain is hijacked, and you're full of fear and sadness, and then you fall and you die emotionally, mentally, and psychologically and spiritually, but not physically. That's when people come to me.
Wow.
That's betrayal trauma.
That so anyway. that's
yeah. So basically, what happens is when you discover the person that, because listen, when we're in a relationship, we co-create with the person. It's like if you take a white rose and you cut the stem in half and you put one in blue food water and one in red, that rose, the colors are going to turn. They're either going to become purple, or some are going to become blue, and some are going but the entire rose is going to change colors. That's what happens when we're in a relationship. We co-create with somebody. Our roots become one.
Yeah.
So when you discover a betrayal, half of you is hijacked, because you lose half of you. You lose who you are.
Yeah.
And so now it's like the very person who you went to for safety has given you the most profound. Listen, I equate it to this, and I don't mean to be so graphic, and I apologize for certain listeners, but you know the people that like go fishing and they catch this big fish, and they don't even kill the fish, and they just take a big knife and they gut it, and all the guts keep falling. That's the feeling when you find out your person that you love, you are gutted. It takes the wind out of you, and you're shocked. You're in shock, and so it's so a lot of times when people come to me, what they want to do is change my partner, change my partner, change my partner. And I'm going to tell you something. Your partner needs to be changed. Trust. First, got to do a little deep dive into your initial wound, because betrayal hits us at our core insecurity. And we got to go back to your core insecurity and fix that so we can start building up to the wound of today.
Wow, that's really powerful and very true, because it's the thing that probably we need the most, is where we get shaken the most. I hear that. So how do you do that? And I'm guessing you're doing this work with just the individual. So take us on the journey. You have this one individual, you're going to help them find the core insecurity that's most wounded, I'm guessing, by this betrayal. How do you do that? And at what point do you start including the partner?
Okay, first of all, good question. Very deep question. I'm going to do my best to answer it. But I will say this. I am a professional that likes to, at the get, have both people on my session. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. I think it's very important. If you are going to co-create and unite a life with somebody, especially a future, they need to know the challenges of your own journey, even if that has nothing to do with them. So I want both people to, because there's no, one of the, really quickly, I just want to say, one of the things that really adds to the challenge of getting over betrayal is people just feel so alone. They just feel so alone. It's like, you don't know what you did to me. And you can be over there playing with our kids and laughing and talking to your mother and doing all these things. I don't even know who I'm married to. I feel so alone. So I want both parties to be every step of the process, no matter what I'm doing. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times where I think you need to work individually for various reasons. But for the most part, I want them all. Okay. I beat that dead horse enough. Now, to get back to your question, to answer that, it really depends on where on their journey they're reaching out to me. Because I talk to some people who just discovered a betrayal, and I'm actually talking with them while they're bear hugging the toilet, vomiting because their guts were ripped out. And then I'm talking to people who maybe their betrayal was 25, 30 years ago. They just never healed from it properly. So really, it all depends on where they are in the healing journey of where I come in to start doing my work. What worked for you before? What's not working for you before? What are your current challenges? What have previous professionals told you? So really, it kind of completely depends. But I will say this. One of the things that I have people do very quickly is go back and write their younger self a letter. And I want you to go back and think of that little inner girl, or think of that little young boy at a time where maybe you didn't feel the safest in your childhood. And I want you to sit in that, because Lord, we don't like to sit in our pain. I mean, who does? I mean, who wants to say, yay, I want to run to pain? Nobody. We don't like to sit in our pain, but I'm telling you something, we have to be mindful and we have to be present, which is why a lot of times people like to numb and distract and avoid with, sex or drugs or TV shows or what. We don't want to sit in our, but you have to sit in the discomfort. You have to be present. So what I have people do as a jumpstart, I want you to go back and I want you to write your younger self a letter. And I want you to validate what you see. I went, hey, little precious so-and-so. Hey, little precious John or beautiful Adriana. I see you there with your dress on, or I see you there in the room covering your head with a pillow because your parents are fighting and maybe you feel unsafe. And I want to let you know, I didn't have your back then. I didn't have your back, and I didn't have a voice because I didn't have the tools. But I want to let you know I got your back now. And I'll never let you feel the way you do now. And I want you to take that letter anywhere you want to take it up to today. Now, here's the key, though. I have them write that letter with their non-dominant hand. And I'm not going to get into the psychology of it all, but what happens is we always present ourselves out into the public with filters.
Mm-hmm.
When you write with your non-dominant hand, it brings those filters down. So you're getting real and raw with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you write in chicken scratch, because this letter is for nobody but you. But that's how I usually start the process. And again, it really depends on where they are in the journey, where I come in and start implementing these tools and techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I've got a question. So I can see how this all impacts, and when the betrayal is fresh. It's they're either catch them, it's happening now, or it was a recent thing that's happened, or so on. Does it make a difference if the betrayal was, I don't know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? It's long since gone. That person is not part of their life anymore. They've moved on from it. But either it comes out, or they just feel like they have to confess. Does that make a difference in the trauma?
So yes and no. A big part of healing from betrayal is dealing with grief.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you lost a child, depending on how you chose to deal with that grief, you could have just lost a child last week or 2 decades ago. And if you didn't deal with that grief in a proper way, it's like you just lost your child yesterday.
Yeah.
So really, a big part of healing from trauma is dealing with grief, and you have to properly grieve. Grieve. And I just want to say this. The other big component is, what, if any, trauma or pre-existing wounds did you have before this set in? Because people that come from a relatively healthy childhood, which is kind of rare, unfortunately, but people that come from a relatively healthy childhood, when they get a trigger, and if you want to talk about triggers, we can, when they get a trigger post-infidelity, they are reminded of the betrayal. But if you are betrayed with existing developmental trauma or childhood trauma, you're not just reminded of the betrayal, you relive the betrayal. It does something completely different to your nervous system.
Wow.
There's so much going on emotionally and so many questions I want to ask.
I want to say, let's talk about the triggers, but anyway, go on.
Okay, let's talk about the triggers, because my question's going to kind of change direction a little bit. So what are the triggers? So
triggers, or as some people call them, emotional flashbacks. And what happens is, and there's a lot going on with triggers. What happens is that our hippocampus, which is in charge of recording time and location, and our amygdala, which is the almond-shaped area of our brain, which and what that is that is our warning detector. It's like the smoke detector. When the amygdala gets affected by betrayal trauma, it's like taking a smoke detector with a hammer and pounding it. It's now going to go off at 2:00 in the afternoon, 2:00 in the morning. It's not working properly. And that's what happens with triggers, is that after we discover broken trust in our relationship, our amygdala goes off all the time. And what happens is we loop, we replay and replay, because we're trying to make sense of how our life was devastated and ravished and shattered. We replay and we replay. And that brings us triggers. What triggers do is it really affects our nervous system and tells us that we are in danger, which of course sets off our fight, flight, nervous system, what have you. So that's a trigger. And I'm going to tell you something. Triggers happen 24/7 after a betrayal. I don't care if you're on the phone talking to your mother, if you're doing dishes, if you're having sex with the partner who betrayed you. It doesn't matter. You have these triggers and they will literally bring you to your knees. You can be in the shower humming a gospel song. All of a sudden a trigger comes on. You're on your knees bawling in the fetal position in the shower.
Wow.
And so what people have to do is, depending on how strong their triggers are, depending on their coping strategies, depending on how long ago the betrayal was or what work they've been doing, they need to start addressing these triggers. And one of the things that I just have people do is just simply some grounding techniques. Look around you and say, okay, listen, I'm in the shower right now. I'm not in any imminent danger. There's not a hungry tiger in the room looking at me growling. I'm safe. I'm in the shower. I'm in control. One of the things we have to constantly do is give ourselves consent and choices, because that was the first thing that was robbed from us. When we find a betrayal, we were robbed of consent, robbed of choice. So we have to give ourselves constant choices, constant consent. I am safe. I chose to get in the shower. Now I'm choosing to wash. Then I'm choosing to get dressed afterwards. I'm safe. What happened is behind me now. I'm not in imminent danger. A couple other things we can do is, one of my favorites, actually, when we get a trigger, is spout out some math facts. And the reason why I like this is because what happens when we get a trigger is it really, our amygdala becomes the big, huge monster. And it really just shrinks our
shuts everything
prefrontal
down,
cortex, which is the logic part of our brain. And so what we want to do is we want to engage the prefrontal cortex and think logically. So I always encourage my couples or my people, spout out some math facts. And the more difficult you get to mathematically, the more you're engaging the prefrontal cortex, the more it's going to shrink your amygdala. So for instance, 2 + 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 32 times 2 is 64. 64 times. Now I got to think. Well, now that you're thinking, you're engaging your frontal logic, and this trigger is going to start. And there's a lot of things that I recommend my couples do, or my clients do, as far as triggers. But the first part of healing trauma is you have to feel safe. You have to feel safe, and that safety has to start with you. So you have to really get in there and start addressing your triggers. Now, hopefully, if the person that you're with who betrayed you is walking side by side with you on this journey, hopefully they're doing the work to help you feel safe while you're in their environment, but your safety has to come from within.
Wow. So I can hear there's a lot of work that the person who's been betrayed has to do, which
there's so much work on both ends.
Okay. So that's where I want to come to. And firstly, is the work that the one who's betrayed having to do, is that affected by whether or not the betrayer has apologized, has owned it, has asked for forgiveness? What part does that process play in the work that I guess that they each have to do?
So I'm going to tell you something. Woo, that's a loaded question. It's a very good question. If a couple is going to make the decision to repair and rebuild and heal after broken trust, they both have to be willing to do the hard work. I tell couples this all the time. I cannot heal your relationship. I cannot heal your marriage. I can't do jack. The only thing I can do is steer your ship into calmer waters. You have to be the one rowing. And when I mean rowing, I mean row until your arms feel like they're ready to fall off. And that's where the work begins. If you're not willing to do that, you're not willing to heal, repair, and rebuild. So absolutely, the party that stepped out has to do everything in their power to make sure they create a safe environment so this person's nervous system can feel at peace, so the healing can begin. And if the other person's not willing to do that, then the person who was betrayed has a couple of decisions they have to make. Should I stay in this relationship? Or should I stay in this relationship and then put some strong boundaries on because I still have to heal? So yes, it does make a difference to the party that betrayed to create a healing environment. But if they decide not to, or if they can't, because let's just say they don't have the coping mechanisms, or their wounds are too big where they can't, then the person who's staying has some decisions to make. I'm still going to stay with you, but you don't have access to my body right now, or you don't have access to whatever. I need to create some really strong boundaries so I can feel safe, so I can heal. Then we'll come back and see how we can reconnect and how you can help me on this journey. There's a lot involved, and it really depends from couple to couple.
I can only imagine. We've spoken quite a bit about what the one who is betrayed would do. What are some of the practical things that the one who betrayed will have to do for themselves and also to create this safe environment?
To stop them repeating it.
Well, yeah, that's another question.
Okay. So first of all, we got to go back to the why. Why did you do this? And so this would be like a typical why, right? When I was younger, my mother was an alcoholic, and she never gave me validation. I always felt worthless. I was molested as a child. I needed acknowledgement and validation, and so I grew up seeking validation from women, and that gave me a sense of feeling worthy and feeling alive. And I got into this marriage, and we were having some marital issues, and instead of me putting my energy into fixing my marital issues, my old wounds and my demons called me. And a coworker of mine told me I was cute, and told me and validated me and acknowledged me, and they lit a spark within me, and I felt alive again. So that's what I'm saying. So we need to go back to the why. We need to heal the why. But I'm going to tell you something else too, and this might pee a few of your listeners off, okay? One of the things that I try and work with relatively soon with the person who stepped out is self-forgiveness. This does not mean you're not accountable, you're not responsible, all is good in the hood. Doesn't mean that. You have to forgive yourself. And I'm going to tell you why. If you don't forgive yourself for what you did, then you are going to be drowned and marinating in guilt and shame so much that you don't have the capacity to give your partner anything that they need and deserve.
Yeah.
So that's one of the first things I try to do. And I'm telling you something that really pisses a lot of people off. Why should he or she self-forgive? They did this to me. I get that. But listen, you can't keep going to your bank and making withdrawals if you don't make a deposit. They have to deposit that within them, that forgiveness, or else they're not going to have anything to give you. And you need everything that they can give you.
Yeah. I hear that. Wow, this is such grown-up stuff, but real life that so many people have to deal with. How do you recover? And is it cyclical? Like you feel like you've not cyclical, but you feel like you've progressed a bit, and then something happens, and you go back, and you want to lash out and leave them all over again, and there you're nodding.
And I'm going to tell you something, and you make such a wonderful, great point. Here's the thing. Because betrayal, you deal so much with grief. Grief hits you like tsunamis and waves, and it's kind of calm for a little while, whatever. It's so it's like, I'm going to give you a perfect example. The first year after my father died, I was in shock. It was sad. It was this, and everybody said, "Oh, the first year is the hardest. The first year is the hardest." But do you know it was the second year when I was walking by my table, and I happened to glance at my chair where my father always sat for when he would come over for Christmas dinner. That was like a sledgehammer to my gut. Wow. And that was the second year. So you're right. So yeah, you could have 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 7 steps back, whatever. Grief comes in tsunamis and waves, but you really have to take them as they come and continuously remind yourself, this is where I am. This is the work I've done. This is the work my partner's done. I'm not with my old partner anymore. I'm with a new partner, a new person who now is, and because I always say, try not to judge people on their worst decisions of life. Try to judge them on how they right their wrong. So you want to remind yourself, I'm not with the person who cheated on me. I'm not with the person who betrayed me. I'm with, this person might look the same, smell the same, walk the same, but they're a completely different person. I wouldn't be with that person who cheated on me. I'm with a new person, which is why I say you might have lost your happily ever after, but you can most certainly have your happily even after.
So
that's an interesting one.
Yeah. What are the kind of guiding principles or decisions that you need to make as a couple about how you're going to go and rebuild trust? Some of the practical things, phones, appointments, what are the things that you advise couples to agree?
And do we mean phones or burner phones?
Exactly.
That's the other thing there.
No burners, period. After broken trust. Yeah.
There you go.
So I'm going to tell you something. One of the things that I tell couples is there's action and there's attitude. Right. Action is huge. Action is huge. But in my personal professional opinion, attitude is even more huge. So listen, we can go through all of the actions of, putting boundaries on our phones and coming up with these plans and doing check-ins, whatever. But if your partner doesn't feel that authentic energy, that you're remorseful, I don't give a crap what steps you're doing. They need to feel you are trying to understand and get what you did to them.
Yeah.
So like if I give you a list of 15 things to do to build trust with your partner and you're doing all of them, but it's like, okay, this again. Okay. Are you still upset with what I did 2 weeks ago? Are you serious? Your actions are big, but your attitude has to be even bigger. That's number one. Number two, I say all the time, the person that stepped out, they have to be absolutely consistent. Oh my Lord, I can't tell you how consistency is huge. Listen, I tell people, if you tell your partner, the one you hurt, that when you're done peeing in the bathroom, you're going to put down the toilet seat. If your partner comes in and finds that toilet seat up, according to their nervous system, you might as well have cheated again.
Yeah. Because
all their nervous system is going to say is, I can't trust you. I can't trust you. You lied. You lied. Because I get a lot of people that come and say, Mr. J, oh my God, I just left the cap off the toothpaste. That's all I did. But did you tell her you were going to put it back on when you were done? Then you lied. And the nervous system doesn't understand the difference. You got to be consistent, even with the molecular things. So there's just a lot of things, consistency. And I'm going to tell you something, and I don't want to throw men under the bus. I'm a guy myself. I love me. I love men. My God, sometimes we just don't get it. It's like, oh my God, like seriously, I hear from a lot of men, Mr. J, I'm not cheating anymore. Isn't that good enough? What? It's like, oh my God. So men, I think, need a little bit more help in this area. And what's interesting is men are usually not the people that come and find me. Like I'm talking about in a male-female relationship. It's the females that will come and find me. And then the men are dragging their feet. So this is why I say the attitude absolutely is huge. You have to come with an attitude of, I want to lean into your pain. I want to learn that what my behavior did to your nervous system. I want to show you, because I tell people all the time, listen, after broken trust, words mean nothing. Words mean nothing. Zero. Behavior means nothing. Behavior means zero. Consistent patterns is what builds trust. You got to be consistent.
And you've spoken about, you mentioned just now in male-female couples, it's often the women who come and find you. So that suggests to me that it's generally the man who was betrayed. Is that a general trend that you find out there? And do you have experience where it's the woman who has betrayed the trust?
Oh, I work with a lot of couples where the woman was the one that stepped out. See, the difference is I think there's a little bit more shame, embarrassment, and guilt when it comes to in the relationship from a man's perspective than a female. I think it's more, sadly, it's more acceptable societally when a male steps out. There's a lot of guilt and see, as a guy, our job, as biologically speaking, we protect, we keep safe. We keep the family together, we protect the family, and we provide for the family. So in a male-female relationship, if the female stepped out, that's a big gouge into our ego, a big gouge into our manhood. And so it's embarrassing to go up to a stranger, a professional, and admit, this isn't the truth, but admit, I wasn't man enough to keep my woman happy. I mean, that's not the truth at all, but that's the mindset. Because I'll tell you something, about 47% of relationships betrayal comes from women. A lot of people think, man cheats 70%. No. It's just that men are much more quiet about it and they try to heal alone, which causes a lot more damage. But I have plenty of couples where the female steps out, and it's a slightly different ballgame. Well, it's a much bigger ballgame. I don't want to paint a broad brush, and I'm sorry, I'll stop right here. I don't want to paint a broad brush, but usually it's slightly more challenging for women to get over an emotional affair with her, if it's a male involved, male-female relationship. And it's slightly more difficult for the male to get over a physical affair if it has to do with his wife or girlfriend.
That's interesting.
I'm surprised by that 47% figure, but I get it that men won't come to you for help if they're embarrassed or feel less than because their wife or partner was the one who betrayed. But does it take, so this is me being maybe sexist or stereotypical, does it take a lot more for a woman to step out of the relationship and have sex with somebody else than it does for a man?
So I want to say this. And again, I don't want to paint a broad brush because we might have some listeners that say, Mr. J, you are so off because that's not why I did A, B, and C. But studies show that men who stray, again, in a male-female relationship, men who stray, they're not looking for somebody else. They're looking to become somebody else.
Right. So
Women
it's about
who
them.
Stray, say again?
So it's about them. It's about the man and what they need to complete themselves.
They want to feel like a hero. They want to feel like a different person. And so, they go and meet somebody and they can, spend the money and make somebody believe that, oh, this is my guiding light, my savior, my hero, because men have a hero complex. Again, I don't want to paint a broad brush. Mm-hmm. Women usually step out because they're frustrated. They're at their wits' end, and they're usually on the verge of walking out of the marriage. Men, 9 times out of 10, love their wife, don't want to leave their wife, don't want to leave the marriage. They just want to feel like they're valid. Women are usually at the verge of, I think I'm done. So there's slight differences there.
That's very interesting. I just want to go back to the question very quickly. I'm conscious of time. Just quickly, we only got a few more minutes here. This conversation, I tell you what, we knew it was going to end. Absolutely.
And I have another question that I want to ask.
But I think I heard you say that women have more difficulty getting over emotional affairs than they do physical affairs. Is that correct? Like the way you said it was, women have difficulty getting over emotional affairs, men have more difficulty getting over physical affairs. But I'm wondering why is that with the women? Why do they have this challenge with getting over the what? Neither are good. Neither are good. But is it because?
Oh, so there you go. Then maybe you can explain it.
I'm gonna have a go, and then you can correct me. I think it's about that connection, that emotional connection, is so important to a woman. To think that you have that with somebody else is the ultimate betrayal. Physically, of course, you don't want that. But anyway, that's my...
No, I'm going to leave it right as that. Seriously. And listen, I just want to say something else too, which I know I really might put some people off that are listening, possibly even you guys. But with men, with the whole physical thing, first of all, men are very visual. And 2, if you go back to like hunter-gatherer days, I want to be very careful, but... My home is my property. My wife is my property. I want to protect my property. My property is only mine, and I'm going to protect my property from being invaded. Men have this mindset of my property was invaded. That goes a little deeper from if there's physical infidelity from the other side. But listen, this is not a broad brush. It's not in every case. I'm just saying, studies show us that women have more of a challenging time with emotional affairs and men have a more challenging time.
I get that. And I want to reiterate what you said. We're talking in lots of generalizations and stereotypes, but this, as you said, the studies show and the trend tends to be, this is what happens. I want to go sideways for a minute because I know we only
have a minute.
Is betrayal only sexual? Could it be if they were physically abused? Like, this is a person I trust and they hit me. Does that come into the betrayal that causes trauma and trust needing to be rebuilt?
Okay, so let me just say this. In order for betrayal trauma to occur, there has to be a dependency or a reliance upon. That could be physical abuse, sexual abuse, which a lot of people don't like me saying sexual abuse when it comes to infidelity, but infidelity is sexual abuse. I'll get into the specifics if we have time. If not, maybe another podcast or interview. But listen, we can also have betrayal trauma from our jobs, our corporations, our bosses, because we have a reliance upon them. I'm actually talking to a guy right now. He's like, Mr. J, I gave this company 27 years. I gave them my blood, sweat, and tears. I wasn't at my mother's deathbed because I was working, but yeah, I just got a pink slip and I'm not getting any retirement benefit. I feel my job betrayed me. There's a woman I'm working with who has breast cancer. And she was like, you know what, Mr. J, I was very healthy all my life. I did yoga. I drank my shakes. I exercised. I feel like God betrayed me, or I feel like my body betrayed me. I'm working with another gentleman whose father committed suicide, unalived himself, took his own life. He said, you know, Mr. J, my father was my best friend. He killed himself. My father took away my best friend. I feel betrayed. So betrayal trauma can come. There has to be a dependency, a reliance upon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can come in many, many different forms.
Yeah. Wow. We've covered so much. Do you want to, and we still have a few more minutes. You mentioned sexual infidelity is a form of sexual abuse. Why do you say that?
So listen, let me just say this.
I love it when you say that. Let me just say this. We all sit up and listen.
I will never say that what a person does when they're drunk. I won't say like they're an eternal alcoholic. Just like I won't call somebody who cheated an eternal abuser, but you did act in an abusive way while you were cheating, because what you're doing, you're robbing somebody from consent. You're robbing somebody of choice. You are potentially bringing home deadly diseases that they never agreed to. So neglect, abandonment in a relationship, all those are abuse.
Yeah.
So you are actively abusing somebody when you cheat on them. Now, would I say you're an abuser? I probably wouldn't say you're an abuser if somebody cheated, but while you were cheating, you were abusive.
Yeah,
absolutely. And just to quickly go back to one point you were saying too about men and women and how they're different, whatever. I also look at attachment styles. Attachment styles play a big role in betrayal. I also look at love languages because listen, let's just say one person's love language is physical touch. Sex is going to be more hurtful to that person than say if their love language was gifts. Because I'm working with a woman right now who says, Mr. J, I want to be honest with you. I don't care that my husband had sex with his secretary, which, okay, whatever, it's up to you. She says, but he had to buy her gifts. That's what bothers her. Her love language is gifts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that's showing that that importance.
That was how she received love. And now she thinks, well, then he must have loved her by giving her a gift. Which is, no, he didn't. Infidelity is very selfish.
Yeah.
Because you're doing something with the intent of getting something back. That's selfish. It's not real love.
And hoping to get away with it usually.
Yeah.
Yes. Nobody ever wants to be caught. Although there are those people, I'm going to tell you something. There are those people that pray for the day they get caught, because this is what's weird. I'm telling you, we can get into several hours about this. There are those people that get caught in a spider web and they don't want to be in the spider web. But every time they get out of that spider web, or every time they get done cheating, let's just say there's a serial cheater. You know how like an insect, the minute it sees lights, it's like they go into a trance and they go to the light. This is what happens to a lot of people that are serial and cheaters, is something gets triggered and they go into the light and then they get caught in the spider web. And then once they get out of that spider web, they feel like crap and they're riddled with guilt and shame, whatever. And they swear they're not going to do it again until that next light goes on. And then they're in a trance. A lot of times those are like, I can't wait until my spouse discovers this. I want to get out of this cycle. They're not strong enough to come and have a disclosure, a self-disclosure, but they want to get caught. But that's a whole nother show.
Wow.
That's one more question. I mean,
we're literally over time. We're over time now. Not that. We're over time.
Yeah, but one more. And now you make me forget the question. It was going to be a good one.
It's going to have to be another show. I think I'm just looking at the wrong clock here.
We're going to have to have you back. We're going to have to have you back, because
this has been a fascinating conversation. It really has been. I think there's so many things that people will. Well, there are people in this situation, as you say. A lot of people don't talk about it. They're facing it. There are a lot of people in pain out there. We have people come to us as well who've been in these situations, etc.
And want to find a way forward. But now we know where to send them, right?
Absolutely.
Which we haven't asked. Shall we ask that? How do
Thank you. Great catch.
How do they get in touch with you?
So listen, I have, in my opinion, the world's easiest website. It's mrjrelationshipcoach.com. But even if people never want to hear from me, see me, talk to me, nothing, I have a lot of free resources on my website. So even if they come to mrjrelationshipcoach.com,
And that's Jay, right?
Yes. Take advantage of my free resources. Please do that, because this is one of the most painful journeys anyone can take. I've talked to multiple women who said, Mr. J, I've lost children and I've dealt with my spouse's betrayal, and I would take losing another child before taking this again. It is the most profoundly difficult, challenging journey anyone can take. However, if you work together, you can have the most amazing marriage or relationship that you never thought was possible if you work together and heal this.
And you can live happily even after.
100%.
Wow. What a great note to end it on. It has been wonderful. I hope our audience are as, sitting on the edge of their seats waiting to hear, let me tell you this. As we have. But, thank you so much for your time, for being such an engaging guest speaker, and for doing such amazing work. Bless you.
Thank you both. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. And to our audience around the world, we say thank you so much for being with us yet again. Let's see where we go next week. But for now, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Thanks for tuning in to the 4 Habits podcast. Now, if today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget, take our free relationship skills quiz at the4habits.com/skills quiz to start improving your relationships today. Hit subscribe and we'll see you next time.